Greetings folks and welcome to the Electromaker podcast. This is your audio version of your midweek roundup of all things Maker and embedded and lovely. If you're hearing this for the first time, this is a YouTube show on the Electromaker YouTube channel, which is why sometimes it sounds like I'm referring to a screen. In the video version of the show I am. But it also works quite well as a podcast, and where it makes no sense without seeing the screen, I will dip in and say things to give audio context. Although a lot of the time I am told that is not really necessary. You can generally tell what I'm talking about just from the amount I'm describing it, which is nice to know. This was Pi Day. This week had Pi Day in it before the show. So there was a few Pi Day projects in there. There was actually a lot more Pi Day projects I wanted to fit in the show, but we have some time constraints, and so they couldn't go in. But if you have been working on something for Pi Day, be that something to do with the Raspberry Pi or something to do with maths, please do let me know. Because obviously Pi Day is a thing that technically only really works for Americans because the months are the right way around for you. Because it's actually 3/14, month 3, day 14, whereas for us it's the 14th of the 3rd, so we have to be inventive. Anyway, this is a nice show. It's a really nice mix of things. Everything in this show seemed to fit really nicely, and there's a lot of stuff to get excited about. So I guess less waffle up top, and let's get on with the show. So just before we get started this week, I want to say right off the bat, the Blues Wireless competition, we're going to extend it for another week. You may remember last week in the show we said we were going to give away the note card and the base plate, and we still are. But it turns out a few people got in touch and said, I didn't hear about this contest. This episode didn't show up in my subscription box, which is something that happens on YouTube from time to time for reasons unknown. So just to make sure it's fair and everyone gets a chance to enter, we're going to draw that competition next week. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, in last week's video we started a competition to give away the Blues Wireless note card. I will leave a link in the description with a timestamp to that video so you can know what to do to enter if you would like. What you are hearing is the digits of pi expressed as musical pitches. This is a project from Simple DIY Electromusic Projects. This is the blog that Kevin maintains, and I've featured it on the show many times for good reason. It's an absolute treasure trove of microcontrollers and music mixing. Kevin's done some wonderful projects. This one is on the surface, very simple celebration of Pi Day. This is the digits of pi expressed as pitches, but as you're probably hearing, it is slowing down. And that's because, on the limited hardware, i.e. an Arduino that he has to play with, it takes longer and longer to calculate the next digit of pi. So this is, to my eyes, a perfect data sonification project. You're hearing the different digits of pi, but what's being expressed here is the fact that calculating pi ain't an easy task. Now, I'll leave that playing in the background. As always, this is wonderfully written up on the Simple DIY Music Project's blog. The video is just here. And as mentioned here, it says, what if increasing time to calculate a digit is inherently part of the music? It's exactly what I love about this. That was the idea, so set about looking for an algorithm to calculate the digits of pi that would run on an 8-bit microcontroller like my Arduino. Now, as always, this is a very thorough write-up, not just telling you how you can do it, but telling you how you can understand what is being done here. And one of the things about Kevin's blog that I think is fantastic, and it's actually not that well represented across the entire internet, is that if he goes into a subject that he has talked about before, he will describe it, but he'll also link out to various other blog posts to show how he got from there to here. I've said many times before that this is one of my favorite blogs, and it is very difficult not to feature it on the show a lot with my proclivity for microcontrollers and music. But what with Pi Day having passed in the previous week and such a beautiful Pi-based synthesizer here, I thought, it's something that we really should open the show with this week. Now, Does It Run Doom has become the slightly joking rallying cry of anyone talking about hardware, and Doom has now made its way to the Raspberry Pi's custom silicon, the RP2040, because it was always going to happen. But the implementation that Graham Sanderson, this project's creator, came up with is actually kind of amazing when you think of the limitations of the RP2040. For a start, it has just 256 kilobytes of RAM, which is not much, but it also only has 2 megabytes of onboard flash, which is way more than the 4 megabytes of the original shareware version of Doom. And as mentioned, Graham Sanderson, the creator, wasn't going to take any compromises here either. He set himself the difficult task of running the shareware copy of Doom as it was originally intended, with the original resolution, original sound, original everything. Now, before we go on, this is, well, me from a while ago. It's amazing how different the show used to look, isn't it? This is the old Electromaker Show with the worst lighting and the weird background. But this is talking about the same thing. This is Doom on a pregnancy test. This is Foon Turing's Twitter account. And we were talking about this in September 2020. And this is a custom thing. He's put a custom screen in the pregnancy test. It's not running on an actual pregnancy test. But it just kind of goes to show that, yeah, this idea of getting Doom running on everything is almost a meme at this stage. But there's a very serious thing behind it as well. So I'm letting this play in the background very quietly, but obviously if you go and check the video out yourself, I'll leave a link to this news article in the description so you can. You will see that this plays, looks, and sounds exactly like the original version. In fact, if you just saw the screen and the two little speakers, you will be forgiven for thinking that this is original old school hardware it is running on. It is that good. But there's some really clever things that had to be done, and the serious side of porting Doom to everything is that every single time it happens, it is a triumph of someone taking restrictions and working well within them. In this particular case, because you only had half the space needed, there was some very clever compression that had to be done in order to get this running. Anyhow, the full write-up of this project can be found on Graham Sanderson's GitHub page. That has all of the source code, it has all of the build instructions, and it has all of the ideas behind it. It is well worth a read. I learned some things, even just in the synopsis of this project that I had never thought of before, never worked on before. The whole thing is an absolute triumph. And as mentioned, every single time this gets done, it represents that triumph over limitations. And limitations are a wonderful thing. Now, you may have heard of the Space Mouse. There are these productivity-focused multi-gesture devices that you can move around in various ways. They have a joystick on them, they have a rotary encoder on them, a bunch of buttons. They're designed to make you more productive. I actually fiddled around trying to make something sort of similar as a video editing tool. Long-time watchers of the show might remember this box, actually. I was going to use it, and I was going to show it off on the show as my new video editing tool. Turns out I iterated over this for a while, and I never found anything that came close to being as good as video editing as the mouse and keyboard. But the Space Mouse is slightly different, because as well as having a rotary encoder and a bunch of buttons, you have a joystick that you can move around too. Now, this project on the Electromaker website by Daniv Bell is incredibly inventive because it manages to mimic that feeling of the Space Mouse of having a rotary encoder and a joystick by using very simple parts. He quite literally stuck a rotary encoder on top of a joystick, and it's just such a simple but fantastic solution. So this build, which looks pretty good, uses the RP2040 microcontroller. It actually uses one of the Pimoroni micro RP2040 boards. I've forgotten what they're called. Tiny 2040 boards. As mentioned before, what you have here is a rotary encoder stuck on top of a joystick. It's simple, but it works. It's such a wonderful idea. And then you have a screen for some feedback and a few other buttons. The idea being that it's somewhat like a Space Mouse. This tutorial takes you through everything you need to know to build one of your own if you would like to, including how to make it look decent, and also all the code you will need. Again, this being an RP2040 chip, you get to do this in Python, which makes it nice and easy. And all of the code here is provided in case you don't want to do the coding yourself. And again, the thing I love about this is that you end up with quite a nice looking finished thing, but it's clearly handmade. It's got a few scuffs to it. It doesn't look like it's been produced. And to me, that is a feature, not a problem. So yes, if you want to try having a Space Mouse, but don't fancy shelling out hundreds and hundreds of dollars to try one, maybe you can build your own using some simple hobby components. This is a truly wonderful project. I love it. Now, this is on the Arduino blog. It's a project using an Arduino, so it's a little bit tenuous to connect it to Pi Day, but then again, you need to use Pi to calculate circles, and it's enough, because this is too awesome not to talk about. So what you are seeing here is a Niclo or Niclov, depending on how you pronounce it, display. And it is a persistence of vision display, but it's actually more impressive than most persistence of vision displays. Many years ago, for my first, one of the first tutorials I wrote as a hardware tutorial, I wrote a persistence of vision tutorial, which had several LEDs in a box along with an Arduino Nano, and the timing was such that if you pulled it across the sky very fast in front of you, just like this, it would spell out words in the air. Depending on your camera settings, you can take photos of it, but the idea is it's supposed to fool actual eyes. If the light's off and you're in a room with another person, they move it like this, and the images left over in your eyes make it persist. It's persistence of vision, so it looks like there are letters hanging in the air for a moment. This works on that same principle, but instead of using several LEDs, one per row, this uses a single LED and cuts different holes in this spinning disc. So this entire display that you're seeing here, what looks like a slightly squashed and weird OLED display, that is the product of one LED and many holes in this piece of spinning disc. This piece of spinning disc? I almost described that very well indeed, and then I completely lost it at the last moment. So before we look at the video demonstration, I just want to quickly explain further how this works. So this is the RGB LED that we're seeing right here, and this just is a single LED that's changing very, very quickly. This disc is spinning, it's attached to a motor, and at the bottom of the disc there is a infrared sensor, and on this disc itself there's a little reflective strip. So every time it turns around, it triggers the infrared sensor, and it gives you a clock. With that clock, you can use it to calibrate the speed of the LED flashing so that you always get a proper image coming out of the front. I hope I explained that properly. But it's a self-correcting system. The speed of the motor is important, but you can track it using the infrared sensor, and you can use that to change the LED speed of flashing, which gives you a clear image at the end. Again, I hope I explained that better. So this video demonstration, it makes it quite easy to understand. These dots here are getting closer and closer to the middle of the circle, so that every time they pass the quite wide LED light, it shines through that hole. And when it's spinning very quickly, as you're about to see, it slowly makes up an image. And the image itself is actually kind of amazing. So, a 3D printed Nicolab display, it's amazing, really, isn't it? It looks wonderful. And the fact that this is all just one single LED creating a pretty decent resolution image considering is amazing. I'll leave a link to the Arduino blog in the description because this video is embedded there, although of course you can head to the creator's YouTube channel and give them a subscription as well. The video gives you a massive amount of information as to how you can 3D print your own and all of the electronics required, and of course there's a great write-up on the Arduino blog as well. The Electromaker podcast is brought to you by the Electromaker Store. We have an online store. We don't have a Patreon. We don't do adverts. We don't really do anything like that. We just sell things. So if you are thinking of buying anything for your next hobby project, be it a single board computer, a microcontroller, any kind of components you need, whether they're simple hobby components, even up to some quite serious industrial components, we stock a lot of things from a lot of people. So if you would like to support this show, yeah, that's the best way you can do it by far. Of course, the free things you can do, like joining our Discord and going to YouTube and subscribing there, are also very appreciated. But none of these things are necessary. This podcast will always be here for you for as long as we can afford to run it. Anyway, with that said, let's get back to the fun stuff. We're moving on to the part of the show we call Funding Website Things, where we look at things on Funding website. And this week we're back at Crowd Supply. And we're starting with the Halo TD XP-AH, which is, as it says, the first open source 802.11AH scalable long-range Wi-Fi development platform for engineers and experimenters. And the name is on purpose. 802.11AH is the very high-frequency unlicensed band for radio waves, for Wi-Fi, sorry. And it's called Halo. That's how it's pronounced. So it's a great name. Anyway, this is a really interesting looking board. We talked recently about software-defined radios and how awesome they can be. And we talked a bit in the past about long-range Wi-Fi and different kinds of stuff. And there's always something to be careful with there. Something I've not really talked about on the show because, frankly, it's not my area of expertise and I don't understand it, is that you could buy hardware to mess around with radio bands and actually be doing it illegally in your country depending on what bands you were using. Now, normal Wi-Fi is 2.4 gigahertz up to 5 gigahertz. This goes up to something crazy, 900 gigahertz or something like that. As soon as that came out of my mouth, it sounded wrong, so I had to check. Wi-Fi Halo, as mentioned, pronounced Halo, is a Wi-Fi wireless networking standard. It uses 900 megahertz license-exempt bands. There we go. So, 900 megahertz license-exempt bands. Bear in mind that this is what it says here. This is by no means the law. Make sure that if you do want to mess around with radio bands, you're checking what's legal and okay near where you are. But yes, I'm glad that I cleared that up. So yes, this seems like a super compelling development board for a very new protocol. As it says here, it's built on Wi-Fi 6 and it adds the ability to reach a minimum of 1 kilometer, which is insane. Designed to support up to several hundred clients per access point via restricted access window, which is a form of the time division multiple access, TDMA. And if you understand what that is, great. I have no idea. I'm way out of my depth. But then again, that's why you buy something like this, isn't it? You buy a kit like this out of your depth so that you can learn how to use it, learn to develop with it, learn the ins and outs of the hardware involved so that when it comes to making your own design that incorporates it in the future, you know what you're doing. Now, this video, by the way, is using it with 2 Raspberry Pis. They're just plugging in as a USB dongle. You can use this just as a USB dongle or a standalone kit, depending on how you want to work with it. There's a lot more I could talk about here, but I'm not going to because it's not my area of expertise. If you are interested in this, you're going to know more about it than me already. So come and have a look at this page. It's already live. This isn't a pre-launch product. If you want it, you can buy one now for $99. They're trying to raise $7,900 and they have raised $2,500 already. So they're well on their way with 39 days to go. But if it's the kind of thing that you are interested in, if you want to mess around with the new forefront, the bleeding edge of long-range Wi-Fi, the Halo TD XP-AH may be worth a look. We're staying on crowd supply and moving to SOCO RAD32, so called because it is a software-controlled radio that uses an ESP32. Now, it's a really interesting project, this, because while last week we had a Lime SDR Mini, which is the software-defined radio, Lime SDR, it's a wonderfully complex tool that you can use for all kinds of stuff, whereas this is more on the hobby end of the spectrum, and in fact, it's built into the idea. So this bit of copy kind of sums it up quite nicely, actually. Unlike using complicated SDR for amateur radio operations, SOCO RAD32 is an amateur radio-tailored device that makes things simpler. Using simple AT commands, users can configure the audio volume, tone squelching, CTC-SS and CDSS codes, etc. So it's no surprise that it looks a little bit like a walkie-talkie, and in fact, if you solder a speaker and a battery onto the terminals that are exposed here, it can be exactly that. So, if this is something that seems like it might be interesting to you, as mentioned, it's a pre-launch page. I don't know how much it's going to cost yet. We'll come back to it when it launches. But there are a few details here already if you want to look into it and see if it's something that you might want to follow. And as with all pre-launch pages, you can head to the box here and enter your email address if you would like news about this specific project. That's kind of how it works. The subscribe button on each page is per project, not for the whole site of Crowd Supply. So if you do see something you like on the show or just while browsing the site, that's how you can keep up with it. But yes, SOCO RAD32 does seem like a nice, more basic amateur version of your software-defined radios, and yeah, it's a cool little PCB as well, isn't it? Now we're going to move on to just other generally cool things I saw on the internet this week, things that don't fit into the other categories. And we're going to start with Ben Valak, who's a YouTuber who I've been following for a while. He's been on this long journey from a normal keyboard layout to an ergonomic split layout that's completely custom. And the video that we're talking about today actually came out in January, but Hackaday recently reported on it, and it was enough to make me think, oh yeah, okay, let's think about that again. And in many ways, I've avoided putting some mechanical keyboard stuff on this show, but it's actually perfect for the Electromaker Show, because at the end of the day, these are custom PCBs with microcontrollers on them. It fits. Now, we're not going to go too deep into mechanical keyboard design or mechanical keyboard aesthetics or having any opinions about mechanical keyboards at all, because anyone who's taken a look at some of the subreddits and forum posts about them will know that A, it's a rabbit hole, a massive rabbit hole, and B, there are opinions, very, very strong opinions about bespoke keyboards. And there have been some fantastic guides out there. I mean, Zach of the Void Star Labs has done some absolutely wonderful videos about making custom keyboards and how he's saying this is a fantastic maker project to get yourself started with. We talked about that on the show in the past. This is interesting because not only does this video go into Ben's history with keyboards and how he got to where he is now, but it also talks through, from his perspective, learning to create a PCB, customize it, send off for it, and then make a keyboard, iterate over designs until he lands on something perfect for him. The aesthetics of the videos are beautiful as well. They're beautifully shot, and the way he describes everything is great. There are some YouTube channels where, regardless of content, I really enjoy them because of the production style. And even if I wasn't interested in what he was talking about, I'd probably be quite interested to hear Ben speak. Anyway, I will leave it at that. I'm not really wanting to go into any more details. Split ortholinear ergonomic keyboards are a really interesting topic. One I'll be coming back to because, yeah, another reason that this came back to mind is that, I'm thinking about making a split ergonomic keyboard. I have pains in my hands from typing because I type all day. And I'm thinking of trying to make something. And if I do, of course, I'm going to write that up. It'll be on Electromaker. It'll be on the Electromaker Show. But for now, if you're even not remotely interested in mechanical keyboards, I would suggest watching this video because this is more to do with how to build keyboards than opinions on switches or colors or a $1,000 keyboard that has magical springs or whatever, you know. This is more from the maker perspective than the boutique perspective, I suppose. And finally this week, I want to talk about the Pockit modular computer. Now, this is not the first time we've talked about this. We talked about this a long time ago on the show. In fact, we probably talked about it around about a year ago when the first videos of Pockit started appearing. It is a completely modular computer based on the STM32 and ESP32 system on chips. And the previous version also had a slot which allowed you to use a Raspberry Pi Compute Module 3. Now, in the last year, there have been a plethora of updates, but the latest video, the 2022 demo, there's been some big changes. The biggest, as you can see on the screen right now, is that it has a Compute Module 4 upgrade. Now, this 16-minute video that is embedded in the news article that I wrote on the Electromaker website is a video from the creator. And Anil is a one-person team. He's doing this off his own back, and it is a stunning one-person project. But yeah, I mean, what you're seeing on the screen right now is just a completely modular computer. It's just a tile with a bunch of magnets on, and those magnets have power points and data points, just like like any plug would. It's basically his own system, like Stemmer or Quick or what's Arduino's one called Eslov. But instead of clicking things in and having loads of wires all over the place, it all fits exactly onto the one board. And so that alone is sort of cool, this idea of having a kind of magnetic Arduino, for want of a better word, starter kit. I mean, it's STM32 and ESP32. But what he's added to it now is incredible, because the Compute Module 4 allows for Edge AI. There's 80 different blocks now, and that includes things like cameras, thermal cameras. If I quickly scrub through the video just now, you can see, there's LED matrix just here. And then what's coming onto it now, then and by the way, the other thing I haven't mentioned yet, I was going to get onto, is that Pockit uses its own browser program. So you can just talk to it completely separately. You don't have to know any code even. It's a no-code platform. You have this browser-based IDE, as for want of a better word, but it's not really an IDE, which automatically detects when things are put on. I'm tripping over my words here because it's so interesting. So look, he just dropped a thing onto Pockit, and it automatically went, oh, okay, you have one of these now. There it is. Okay, you have one of these now. So you have all of these things on the block monitor, and then you can link them up without any code. Anil explains this far better in his video than I'm going to be able to. So here we have the thermal camera. As he points it at his laptop screen, the reason he's doing that is because he has a video playing and is doing live object detection using the Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4. It's just an amazing product. Now, product is the wrong word. It is not a product yet. It is not ready for sale. Pockit hasn't gone on sale yet, and it won't go on sale for a while. There's going to be some early beta units that can probably be bought, and I don't know how to get a hold of that. I have actually already sent a message because I'd love to get my hands on one of these. But I would really suggest heading to the link in the description, that'll bring you here, and watching this video. It's fantastically produced, and it tells you everything you need to know, and I have not been able to adequately explain how cool Pockit is because I've tried to explain too many things in one go. Anil explains it all much slower and gives the exact reasoning as to why everything works the way that it does. This is a wonderful project. It really has been put together with a lot of love and care. This is clearly something that no corners are being cut in the production of. And when this thing comes out, it's going to be kind of amazing, I think. So that was our podcast for this week. Thank you so very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed making it. As always, the Electromaker Show will return, and there will be another podcast this time next week. And if you have any suggestions for the show in general or the podcast, please do reach out to me. As I've mentioned, we have the Discord server. Although if you do just like to drop me an email, you can get me at ian@electromaker.io. If you are contacting me through the podcast, then mention in the subject of the email that you're a podcast listener. I'd love to chat to you. But anyway, I hope you're having a safe, fun, and creative week, and I will chat to you next time.